So I just want to thank everybody for coming. Gosh, I don't remember how many months ago now, maybe about 6 months ago, when I knew I was, not even that long, when I knew I was moving, I wanted to do something that would bring African American and African diaspora culture to where I am. As you guys all know, I lost my husband last year, and one of the first things that I did in the summer was basically just stay very hyper-local. And it was very interesting because the University Art Museum had an exhibit called The African Presence in Renaissance Europe, and I took Imani, and she was fascinated. And around that same time, the Symphony in Princeton had a piece that was based on Jacob Lawrence art. And I realized I didn't have to go to Philly, I didn't have to go to New York to get the kinds of things that I wanted to expose my kids to. I can do it right here. And there's a book, excuse me one second, there is a book about Princeton. Hold on. Called The Long Journey Home, and it's by, most people in the room know Jack Washington, who is a teacher in Trenton. And he got a fellowship from Princeton University from Nell Irvin Painter, who was a professor at the time, and she also was art, cultural, and historical consultant on the book that Roland and I did, Still I Rise, A Graphic History of African Americans. But I read this book, and I became really fascinated that I knew so many really good friends who are part of this history, Black history of Princeton. And I also found about Palmer Square, where I like to shop, but once upon a time that was a Black neighborhood. You know, and like many other places, they moved the Black neighborhood out in order to bring something that more desirable in. And one of the things that they moved out was Baker Alley. And so I decided to call this club that I was creating the Baker Street Social Club, and that's basically where it comes from. And I met Danny. I first met him, you remember, 16 years ago, but we won't talk about that. 2 years ago, when he did a Def Poetry Jam reunion at Mist, and there was all kinds of drama. We weren't finished with the construction. I was freaking out pretty much every day, and I would call him every other day and say, we're not making it. And it happened, and he was so generous and just so amazing. And I read online, because I was finally able to become a Facebook friend of his, because he wasn't able to add people, but I was able to get in. And so he was coming out with this new book, and I sent him an email saying, you know, I have this thing that I created, and I was probably, you know, everybody here knows I talk a lot. It was this long rambling thing, and he got
shaking my head, I agree with you. Learn to do that.
And he immediately said yes. And I was just so excited and honored. You know, the library didn't have room on their schedule very close, and you know, it was like, December's so far. Well, it's today, and it's crazy. And you know, I asked him if he was willing to come over to the house and meet my peeps beforehand, and he said he would. And I'm just, oh, and this book is for you, and I have another thing for you, but this is for you.
Okay, thank you.
And oh my God, I shouldn't have started this without the other thing I wanted to give you. Yeah, so, but I just want to thank you, and thank you so much for, and hug.
Yes.
For doing this, and it's going to be an amazing reading at 3 o'clock. I hope you all are not just hanging out here, but going over.
Where the food is.
It's going to be put away. So you go over to the library where there's going to be books for sale. A couple of people asked me if there are going to be books. Yes, and he's going to sign them, right?
I believe so.
Yeah, and thank you. I mean,
can I just say something?
Okay.
I sort of have a different memory of the Def Poetry thing in this. So they weren't finished. A tenant of mine worked there at the time, Leslie Harrison, jazz singer.
Amazing.
And they weren't finished, and I was okay with that. You know. And this woman kept on calling me all the time, like, explaining like, and trying to make sure I felt good about it. And I was like, cool. I was like, okay, fine, I got something. But she kept calling and she kept on explaining it. She walked me through it. Was really concerned And, you know, most people in the entertainment field are not that there. You know, they say, well, it's not ready, and that would be the end of it. She wanted to make sure that everything went all right. And I really, truly appreciated that. And she made everything easier. She actually contacted the poets and told them why. And made sure that they got their down payment on time. And even though it wasn't ready, they didn't even know when it was going to be ready. But she wanted to make sure that the poets felt comfortable in holding the dates and stayed. And so she went the extra mile. And so when she came to me and she said, well, I have this new thing, Baker Street Social Club. I said, well, how could I not? Because, I mean, you went the extra mile for me. And I knew I was getting back from Miami Basel the day before, and I was like, God. But I said, well, if you stay in the car, I'll come. So they stayed in the car. So I got in here and slept on the way. And this is a wonderful reception. I really thank you guys for coming out and hanging out. I hope you can come to the reading. And she's going to grill me. It's not just a reading. I'm not just going to read. She's going to ask me questions, and I'll try to answer them truthfully as I can without getting in trouble. We should have a good time. So thank you, Taneshia, for your hospitality.